Welcome to Concussion Talk Podcast. I'm Nick Mercer. In episode 32, I talked to Cameron Young. Cameron is a recent graduate of Queen's University. Over about the past 10 years, he has sustained, according to his count, approximately 9 concussions. Cameron talks about how these concussions have affected him academically and socially with friends, roommates, and others. Okay, I'm with Cameron Young now, and he's going to tell us about himself and about his history with the concussion.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nick, for having me here today, and I'm happy to be talking about this. And just to give you a brief information as to who I am, I have the same Queen's connection. I graduated from biology this past May, and I'm back here in Calgary now. And it was during my time at Queen's that I was also serving as the university rector. For those who don't know, it's a student leadership position, and it's a really great opportunity to get involved. But yeah, I guess I'm here today not to talk about that, but to talk about my concussions and my history with concussions, which, to be honest, I've had quite a few. I've had about 9 concussions actually in my throughout my 24 years of life. Yeah. So it's been a lot, yeah. And actually, how I first got my few concussions, I guess, was that they've all been sports related. And it started actually when I was playing hockey. Back in like grade 8, grade 9, I got 2 concussions in a row. And it was actually, I remember the first time I actually got those concussions, because the first one, I got hit so hard that my helmet came off. And the second time was when I got hit just in tryouts, and I woke up on my back and I was staring up at the ceiling. And I didn't really, at that time, didn't think much about those hits, and I didn't think much of it, but I noticed that like there's a lot of symptoms to it. Those symptoms being I had headaches for quite a few days, actually quite a few weeks after those 2 concussions. I also remember not being able to sleep. So I had to take melatonin in order to sleep when I was in junior high. I also found that I had a lot of mood swings, and I thought it was just because of puberty, that one moment I'd be happy, one moment I'd be sad. Sometimes I would feel just completely upset with the entire world, and then at other times just elated. And it was really, really weird because I would go through these constant waves. And the worst part of it all was that my grades in grade 8 and grade 9, I was always pretty academically focused, but those years in particular were really tough for me. Like I remember I couldn't read. It was really tough for me to find proper sentences and put together words or proper paragraphs that were tangible. And that was a really scary time for me. But again, I didn't go see the doctor or anything. And so that just kind of continued. And throughout that, since grade 8 and grade 9, I've gotten about 7 more concussions since then. The 4 have been the most recent ones within the past year alone. So last October, I was playing soccer with my intramural soccer team. And out of nowhere, I just got bumped by another player. And what happened is I hit my head on the ground. And again, the initial symptoms from it were that I felt dizzy. I just felt off. Things were a little bit gray, but I kept playing the soccer game, and I finished it. And then I remember going home, and at that point, I began to feel just like there was a bit of a pressure right on my forehead right here, and I felt tired. I also just felt a little bit confused. So I ended up going to sleep. And the next morning when I woke up, I just continued to have a huge headache, and I felt like puking. I was really sensitive to light. And so I went to go see the doctor at KGH, or Kingston General Hospital. They informed me that I had a concussion. And so I went through the concussion protocol because, being a biology student, and my best friend is studying psychology, sent me a lot of papers on concussions and what to do with them. So I really wanted to make sure that I was taking time to myself to recover and to get a little bit better. And mind you, this was when I was still working and doing school, so rectorship, and as well as balancing my academics.
Where were you working?
I was working as the university rector, and so that was a time-consuming job in which, I had to always be meeting with people. There was always documents to read. There was, speeches that I had to write. And so what I did is that I actually had to take 4 weeks off from that and really just take some time to myself. And I also had to speak with my professors about my academics because, there's those courses that I was taking at the same time. And I really wanted to make sure that I was still able to balance everything. And they were really kind, and they were able to give me some extensions on some deadlines and really accommodate for me.
So did you like notice first that I'll need more time, or did they say your work back and you're like, this not very good, or it was the marks on?
Yeah. After the first concussion back in October of last year, I didn't notice too much. I didn't notice that it impacted my grades that drastically because those midterms weren't, of significant value. And on top of that, I was still able to do pretty well on them. So just because they were based off of the first few weeks of class, and I was able to, and I was studying quite well at that point. And I was able to keep up with all of the work. It was the second concussion, though, in November last year that I really found really impacted my grades and actually was pretty detrimental to them. And it was at that point that I really began to question whether or not I could still be in, 2 courses and as well as balance, rectorship, and everything. And it was after that second concussion that I really became quite worried because my grades were just dropping right off. And it was also because I couldn't focus during my time. So I like to do the Pomodoro technique. And I remember writing down for the doctor how long I could stay or how long I could be focused for while doing the Pomodoro technique, which is 25 minutes of work and then a 5-minute break for 4 sessions. And that was really, interesting to see my progression of, symptoms with work, because I found a lot of times that I couldn't do work for more than 10 minutes without getting symptoms. So symptoms being, blurry vision. I'd also have a severe headache right across my forehead. Again, I begin to feel nauseous. And that really took away from me being able to, do anything, because then that meant that I had to wait 20, 30 minutes again until all of my symptoms went away before I could try doing work again.
Right.
So it was very stop and go.
You mentioned that your friend, psychology major, who sent you a bunch of articles. So, but other than that, other than your friend saying, scholarly articles, did you notice any changes, or friends notice any changes with you in terms of what you could do, what you couldn't do, and how your mood was and all that?
Yeah, actually, it was funny because one of my friends did notice, and they mentioned this to me while we were having coffee one time, which was they said that I wasn't really always, it seemed like I was always off, or like I was kind of distant is how they kind of put it. I can't remember the exact term that they used, but they said that I was pretty much just like in my own world sometimes, and I had a glazed over look, especially when it came to groups. Yeah, for myself, I like to be, this is
a bit aloof,
noxious, but I like to sometimes be the center of the room, and being involved in the conversation. And even for myself, I found that I was just usually sitting there kind of blank faced, and I wanted to more of listen, because trying to keep up with conversations and be engaged was something that I found really, really tough. And as well as trying to just, check your emotions all the time, because again, what I found for the first few weeks after my concussions was just, one moment I'd be really happy, then the next moment I would just feel sad, and then it would just continue to flip-flop. And it never really felt like there was a steady pace for my emotions.
Okay, right. So, and that is at home, like, did you lived in the area near Queens?
Yeah. I lived in a student house. Yeah.
Okay, and so did you have like work to do at your, at least home is a relative term, but like that you had to do like dishes or like just homework or whatever they do? clean the house at all? Do you get
Yeah,
help with?
yeah. Yeah, for the first few weeks, my housemates were really accommodating, and they certainly helped pick up some of the slack that because we shared chores throughout the house,
Yeah,
and so we all would share cooking. We would all share cleaning dishes. We would all share, vacuuming or cleaning the bathroom and stuff.
yeah.
Well, I didn't clean the bathroom
Well,
all
yeah.
too often. I was more of the person that vacuumed.
You should have seen my
But yeah,
place.
certainly that time it was really nice to have really supportive friends because they would help pick up my side of the chores for the first couple of weeks until I
Yeah,
felt better and until I could get back into a normal routine, well, semi-normal routine.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just personal interest. Where in the student area did you live?
Yeah, well, I actually didn't live in the university district. I actually lived just off of it.
Okay.
So I live right closest to the Maitland Yacht Club down by the water.
Okay, down by the water. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and so
Nice.
that was really, really nice.
Nice. Cool. So there's a opposite side of the was that opposite side of where the bioscience complex is?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
did you
It's
have
right below City Park.
right? So did you have
Yeah.
trouble like walking into class or any of that? Like you obviously gave up your intramurals for a while, or
Oh yeah, yeah. So I after that one, I did stop playing intramurals for quite a long time. And then it was only in March. Honestly, I cannot remember for the life of me how I got another concussion in March.
oh yeah,
Um, and yeah, that one kind of blanks on me. I've noticed that, I can't remember everything nowadays. It's more of
yeah,
like very just key moments. But the next concussion that I got was this past summer, in July when I did pick up intramurals again because I had no symptoms. I thought that I was cleared to come back to play sports, because for me, soccer was a really big deal, for me,
yeah,
and really just that team sport aspect.
yeah.
And yeah, it was this past summer was a little bit tougher as well too because I couldn't play any longer. So
Oh,
I found, yeah, a lot of times it was more along the lines of I found for myself it really changed a lot of my relationships with people, and
okay.
my passions because now with 8 or 9 concussions, I don't even know how many it is now.
Yeah,
I've lost count. That honestly, I can't play team sports anymore. I can't play
yeah.
any contact sports, and
It's
that
just
really sucks.
is it just too busy socially, and you're like, is there just too much going on there, or that like is that what you
No,
find
it's
out?
it's more along the lines of I don't want to get any more concussions, and I much
Okay.
rather not risk it, right? Because the thing is that I only have one brain
Yeah,
to deal with, and if this isn't working properly in the next 20, 30 years, well,
yeah,
that's going to be a little bit tougher, right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I want to make sure that I can keep this working for as long as
Yes.
possible.
Well, on the bright
Yeah,
side, you did graduate from Queens in May, right? May of this year.
yeah.
Is that right?
Yes, yeah, yeah. So I still had to grind through my academics. And I found that certainly in my last semester, it wasn't my best semester of all time at
No.
Queen's. Compares a little bit to my first year marks, but luckily these were
Yeah.
extra courses that I was just taking.
Okay.
So it wasn't the best of times, and certainly if I was to go back again, what I would recommend for anyone is really critically think about your academics and think about your recovery time, especially if you have a concussion, because one thing with academics is it takes a lot of brain strain and a
Yeah.
lot of endurance. So brain endurance is how I like to put it. And if with university, that is that is something that really puts a strain on your brain. And for myself, I probably would have gone back and just held off on doing my last semester and probably just finish up this year. But I was still able to finish on time.
That's great, and this was a very good conversation. Hopefully, other students, even in Queens or other universities, will get some uh, get some help from this. And
Right.
definitely, I mean, murals are such a part of sport, part of the university. A lot of people get involved in, so it's good to know
Yeah.
that know that even if it's not competitive, not like ultra competitive sports, you can still be injured. Still gotta watch yourself and treat any injury seriously. So, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Cameron.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nick. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Thanks again, Cameron. And remember to please check out my website at www.concussiontalk.com. You can hear all my podcasts and read my blog posts on concussion and cancer. Thanks again. As always, music at the beginning of this podcast is by Ben Sound. www.bensound.com.